If you're an expat mom who's just found out you're moving or who is in the middle of a move right now, this video is for you. Because the more moves we make, the more on autopilot we become. There is so much to think about. And in the middle of it all, we tend to lose sight of something really important, that transitions are hard for your children and for yourself. So today I want to talk about what that actually looks like and what you can do about it. Because the things that make the biggest difference are the things that you can take with you wherever you go in the world. Hi, I'm Angela. I was an expat for 30 years across 11 different countries. I raised 2 boys overseas, repatriated, went through an expat divorce and a cancer diagnosis, and I'm here to talk honestly about it all. So let's start at the very beginning. What even is a transition? A transition is any significant change that disrupts what's familiar. So for children, it might be starting nursery or moving from primary school to secondary school, or a house move or a divorce. And for adults, it could be a job change or a move or a relationship ending or children leaving home and going off to uni. Our brains are prediction machines. And when they can't predict what's coming next, they go on high alert. And that's not weakness. That's just how the brain works. And here's something that you may not have fully realized yet. Moving internationally is not just one transition. It's dozens of transitions all at once. So moving home, losing friends, changing schools, a different language, a different culture, and you know I could go on and on. Every single one of those is a disruption to something that felt safe and known. And your family is navigating all of it at the same time. So when a child goes through a transition, what you see on the outside, the clinginess, the tantrums, the anger, the maybe not eating like they used to or not sleeping well, those things are not the problem. They are the behavior that comes from the problem. What's happening on the inside is that their brain has registered that something has changed. Their routines are disrupted. And for a child, disrupted routines can feel unsafe. They might not have words for it yet, but they sense that something is different and maybe even something is wrong. They might even wonder if it's something that they've done. So their body responds. Maybe they have butterflies in their tummy, which is anxiety, or they'll tell you that it's a tummy ache. Maybe they're not sleeping as well as they used to, or suddenly they want to cling to you more than usual. For older children and teenagers, it might show up a little differently because at that stage of development, their life is all about belonging and finding their people and building that sense of identity outside of the family. So the idea of losing that and starting again and saying goodbye to friends that they finally connected with can feel really exposed and unsafe. And because they are old enough to understand what's going on, but weren't part of the decision-making process, it often comes out as anger at you, at the move, at everything. So now let's talk about you, which doesn't get talked about nearly enough. You are going through just as much as your children are. You're just not acknowledging it. And to be fair, nobody's asking you to. Remember, every time you move, you are a different person. Moving before children is one thing. You're younger and you have this sense of adventure. Moving with young children is a completely different story. There's so much to manage and you are constantly exhausted. And then moving with teenagers brings its own challenges and guilt because they can actually articulate exactly how they feel about what you're asking them to do again. And of course, moving as an empty nester, starting again in a brand new country with no children to focus on, that's a transition that barely gets spoken about at all. Every move adds a new layer, and the signs that you're struggling are not so different from your children's. You may not be sleeping very well, or you feel irritable. Maybe you have a shorter fuse than usual, not to mention the physical symptoms of headaches and exhaustion on every single level of your being, emotional numbness, performing fine while feeling completely discombobulated on the inside, and sometimes even withdrawing. not bothering to invest in friendships because what's the point? Your nervous system is doing exactly what your children's nervous systems are doing. You're just better at hiding it. So what can you actually do about it? Well, there are a few things, but first and most importantly is to acknowledge and name what you're actually feeling. And that goes for you and your children, but it has to start with you. You can't teach what you don't know. And children learn so much more from who we are than anything we could ever teach them. So talking to a friend or family member about how you're actually feeling, not just the I'm feeling fine thing, and talking about it, that's not a sign of weakness. It's simply a sign of acknowledgement. So there's actually a reason that this helps, because your emotions take place in the limbic system, in your amygdala, deep in the center of your brain. And it's your prefrontal cortex that's here behind your forehead that processes your emotions. So when you start talking about how you're feeling or writing it down in a journal, even better, you're actually engaging your prefrontal cortex and helping your brain process all those emotions. And just to be clear, that doesn't mean that the feelings necessarily go away. Transitions are flipping hard, and those feelings are going to come up. But processing them as you go, rather than shoving them down, will save you so much time and energy in the long run. And once you can do that for yourself, you can better help your children do it too, no matter what age or stage they're at. And just for your information, there is a ton of research that backs this up. Neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman found that simply naming your emotions reduces their intensity in the brain. And you may have heard Dan Siegel call it name it to tame it. And it works for you and your children. Now, if you're anything like me, you'll want to know what you can do to help with the transitions. And there is something that made a huge difference in my experience, both for my children and for myself. Establish solid routines, and specifically routines that can travel. Because what's the point of a routine that falls apart the moment you get on a plane? That just becomes another transition. So for us, no matter where we were in the world, a new country, a temporary apartment with boxes everywhere, even on vacation, our morning and evening routines stayed exactly the same. In the evening, it was dinner, bath, stories in bed, in that order every single night. It didn't matter what time it was, but it always happened. And in the morning, we always woke up slowly, had a little snuggle, maybe a story, then breakfast together so we could connect and ground ourselves before the day began. And that consistency told us, without any words at all, you're safe. Our family hasn't changed, and even though everything around us is different, this is still home. And because this was such a consistent routine for the children, it became my anchor too. I was never rushing them in and out of bed. I slowed everything down. So my nervous system got the message too. And if and when they needed to stay close to me or to cling to me during a transition, I let them do that. I didn't give in to everything. Boundaries are also very important and in themselves offer the children a sense of safety. But I did make myself more available to them during transitions because that's what they needed to feel safe. So along with your child's routines, which I hope will become yours too, it's important to have a little ritual that's just for you. And again, make sure it's something that you can take with you anywhere, something that's entirely yours and requires almost nothing. And if it does require something, it can easily go in your suitcase. So for me, that's mindfulness meditation, a little yoga, and of course, my tea, whether it's my favorite English breakfast tea bags that were always in my suitcase, or my special herbal teas, which is apricot. What do I like? Sweet apricot chai in the morning, Moroccan mint in the afternoon, and orange chamomile for the evening. And wherever I am in the world, I slow everything down and make time for my tea. And that tells my nervous system that no matter how hectic things are, everything's going to be okay. It wasn't until I stopped moving that I fully realized just how hard moving internationally is. And the more I talk with other expat moms and ask them how they're really feeling, the more I realize that every single one of us goes through this. It's perfectly human, and none of us are saying it out loud. So here it is. I'm going to say it for all of us. Transitions are hard for your children and for you. But if you can find something that stays the same when everything else changes, hold on to it. Make it travelable, and that will become your anchor. Naming what you're going through is not weakness. It's simply acknowledging how much you go through to make this life look easy. And you are certainly not alone. So come find us at Raising Change Globally. The link is below and you will be very welcomed. Thanks for joining me today. Wherever you are in the world, I'll see you next time.